Hi, I am Dr. Lacy. We are doing a whole series about the discussion chapter, and today's video is, are you ready to write your discussion? Yeah, you might be like, of course, squirrel, I clicked on the video, but are you ready to start the discussion chapter? Here's the thing. Have you completed a draft of your findings? It's going to be very important because if you haven't, there's not going to be much we can talk about. So at least a draft. I'm not saying they're perfect, but do you have a draft? Have you received feedback about those findings from your advisor, your chair, whomever is approving it? So that's number two. Number three, did you update your literature review chapter? I know you probably thought it was over. You were never coming back to it. You're going to have to come back to it because, again, the literature is a huge part of chapter 5, and we kind of need that to be finalized before we can have a conversation about it. And number 4, did you receive any additional information or data that you needed? Anything regarding to member checking, anything that you asked your participants to weigh in on? Do you have all the things that you need? Did you complete your memos? Did you look through your researcher journal? However you capture your all the data, do you have everything that you need? Because that is going to be important. And so those are the 4 main things that I would say that you need in order to determine if you are ready to do this discussion chapter. Here's a note that I want to make about the literature review, because I think you can kind of get with me with the findings. I also witness students who maybe you haven't written chapter for your findings chapter, but you have a outline or bullet points about the major themes that you're going to cover. And that's really what we're looking for here. Some people also choose to write their findings and discussion together. So I wanted to name that. However, the literature review, though, is not one that we can just skirt by. I need you to first go back and reread your existing literature review. And now that you have it in the frame of, I completed the data collection and analysis, I know what my themes are, go back and read chapter 2. And as you're reading it, ask yourself the question, does what I have in here, does that align? Does that still align with what I found? Does that align with the findings, the themes? Does this literature, is it appropriate to include here? Because just because it's about your topic doesn't mean it helps or assists in any way, or is it an efficient use in your dissertation. Think about your dissertation as a real estate, and roughly you're going to be writing 200 pages. Is what you have included in that literature review like a good use of real estate? Now, before you started this dissertation, I'm sure you thought about 200 pages as being a whole lot. But now that you're on this end of things, you can easily see how you can easily get to 200 pages with findings and discussion along. If you don't, trust me, you can. And so that's why it's really important to go back and look at your literature review and see, is there anything that needs to be changed, tweaked, or added according to what was outlined in your findings chapter or your bullet points? Right? Because the literature review is designed to prepare the reader for what is to come in your findings. And you want to make sure that the literature accurately reflects the scope of your research. Are there any topics or research that should be added or that would create more nuance in the literature review to help them understand something that you might be pointing out in the findings? Did you write about any literature that would detract from your study and findings? I'm not saying that goes against your findings. I'm saying detract, like that would distract the reader from what you're trying to say in your findings, what you're trying to point them towards. And then, has there been any updated or newly released research that might have been published since you've written the last draft? This is why I tell students that you will continuously update your literature review. And so if you're someone who is focusing on your proposal and you're just watching this because you're trying to, procrastinate, you do you. I'm not judging you. But like if you are writing your proposal, this is why I'm like, just get a draft and use that to defend, because when you get to this point where you're ready to write the findings and discussion, it's going to change and you will have more of an idea of how you would want that to change. If you're ready to start a discussion chapter, it's going to make it easier for you to write it if you have a draft of your findings and you have updated your literature review. It will make chapter 5 a breeze. And I encourage you to do the literature review before the discussion because, again, it makes writing the discussion easier. Let me know if you have any questions. Put them down in the comment box.